Connecting the community through gospel. The new 107.9 FM, W300EB, Macon, and WDDO 980 AM, Perry, Macon.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of the participants of the broadcast.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Elaine. We know that it's Wednesday. We know that it's 3 o'clock because you see your voice. I'm sure Elaine was right here on Historic WDDO. Welcome to the program. We would like to thank all of our sponsors. Senator David Lucas is one of our sponsors. Former Mayor Jack Ellis is the sponsor. And also Glory Baking Company, my sister Beverly is one who helps to sponsor, and Sheriff David Davis is one of our sponsors. We're also sharing back and forth with Little Georgia Informer, Cornelia Walker. And so we thank all of you who help us keep this program on the air. One last thank you to Black Lives Matter, Black Voters Matter, for their work, their support in keeping this program on. And you know we're always going to talk about voting on Ask Elaine. And we're also going to talk about redistricting. We're going to talk about the system that's the new slavery, the penal system that is the new slavery. We're going to talk about the things that are wrong that we see, but we're also going to talk about what you can do to make it better. And so our special guest today, as you can see, for those of you who've tuned in from Facebook Live, our special guests are none other than State Senator David E. Lucas Sr., and then we also have none other than community activist, community leader, Mr. Herbert Denard. And they are back by popular demand. People always ask, well, when is Herbert going to be back on? And when is your husband going to be back on? And believe me, we get them on as much as we possibly can. And we want to welcome those who have joined us on the Glory. Georgia Jackson, we want to thank you. Is that the Jackson? Anyway, we want to thank those of you who take the time to join us on Wednesdays at 3. We're going to talk today about some topics that I know you will be interested in. We're going to talk about what just happened to us at the Georgia State Capitol. Senator Lucas has just finished this legislative session. It's a 40-day session. It's not always 40 consecutive days, but they get in 40 days where they propose and vote on legislation, things that determine what we do on the state level, what we can and cannot do, new initiatives. So Senator Lucas is going to fill us in on some of the things that happened during this legislative session. They ended on Monday. Well, it was really Tuesday morning that they ended this particular session. And then Herbert Denard is going to ask whatever questions that he is concerned about of Senator Lucas. And then we're going to join in a discussion. We had a really, really hot topic last week. And I see everybody else wants to talk about hot topics. Everybody, we got on the topic of Will Smith slapping the crap out of Chris Rock. And people had a lot of different opinions on it. They shared one or the other that it was justified. They forgave Will. What did Chris do? All of this kind of stuff. And it was an interesting discussion. And I saw some people chiming in that we had not heard from before on Facebook Live. So we're just very, very pleased. So if you're on 980 AM, if you're on 107.9 FM, if you're on Facebook Live, Instagram, YouTube, any of those, then we welcome your input today. We want to say hello to Pastor Lisa Watson, who is always with us. And we had a wonderful, wonderful drum major program in collaboration with the Evangelical Ministers Alliance and the Martin Luther King Board on Monday evening at Green's Tabernacle on Bloomfield Road. It was a wonderful, wonderful program, and we paid tribute to some very fine educators, ministers, and community leaders in this community. And so Pastor Lisa and Dr. Butler are going to keep us up on the things that are going on with the Evangelical Ministers Alliance, which is our spotlight signature organization for this year under the Martin Luther King Commission. They do so much for this community, and we want to salute the president, the incoming president, newly sworn in president and inaugurated president, Pastor Laura Cherry. And so we're going to talk about all those things before we get to your topics, gentlemen. I want to let everybody know that congratulations are going out to the Northeast boys basketball team and the Northeast girls basketball team. It was my honor just a few minutes ago to read and present to them proclamations from the office of the mayor and the commissioners, recognizing them for not only their athleticism, but also their scholarly activities as good students. And so I shook the hands and presented a proclamation to all of those young people, the boys and the girls basketball team on the east side, the Northeast Raiders, girls and boys basketball team, and to the coaches. The boys and girls coaches are coaches of the year because they reached the Final Four in the state games, the championships. So it was a wonderful, wonderful event. I'm glad that we finished it and I was able to get here to let you know that there's a lot of good stuff going on the east side. And so it was my honor to be there with faculty, staff, and those very fine students. So now, Herbert, Senator, what would you think were a couple of the outstanding kinds of issues or hot button issues that you dealt with during the legislative session?
Well, this session we had the bill that lets the GBI monitor and can go in and investigate on any voter. I call it intimidation bill
Mhm.
because not only do you have blacks, you have Latinos and various other folks. And to me, it was nothing but intimidation. Because if something happens, they come and automatically investigate.
Mhm.
And so you got to realize that the party that controls the Georgia General Assembly believed in Donald Trump. That's just a matter of fact because we didn't have any fraud, but they acting as though we had fraud and that the voters basically should not have elected Senator Warnock and Senator Ossoff,
Mhm. And so
which
they're going to do whatever they can to try and keep them from being
right
reelected. So we've got to vote.
it's intimidation just to have them. If something goes on, they come to your house
Mm.
just to investigate. It's a form of voter intimidation, is what I call it. We did some other things. We state employees got a $5,000 raise, which also went to the members of the General Assembly.
Mhm.
So now, rather than our salary being 17,000, it's 22,000.
Oh, y'all get rich, don't you? You
I-
really can get rich. That's yeah.
But that was a constitutional amendment that did not pass that would allow the voters to vote on a constitutional amendment raising the pay of legislators to $30,000.
Mhm.
That did not make it. You have to realize that a lot of members of the General Assembly, they come from these other places, the rural places. They got jobs. They are working for a development authority and serving in the General Assembly, or they're working for the city on something. But they have a job, they have a salary.
Mhm.
And what happens is that when you look at those folks uh, that look like us
Mhm.
coming into the General Assembly, most of them don't have what I call a full time job, or they're working for somebody that
Right.
understands politics. A prime example of that is Representative Smiley, who retired after 48 years.
He came in when you came in.
Yeah, we got elected
First
both
group.
in 1974, and they honored him. They have a portrait that they're gonna put in the state
Mhm.
capitol after
Mhm.
serving 48 consecutive years.
So what's he
And
going to be doing? What's
he's
he?
he's been nominated by the president to be the ambassador to the
Dominican
Dominican
Republic.
Republic,
Uh-huh.
and I would assume that he's gonna get confirmed. He's not that controversial.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Well, maybe eventually, because the Republicans don't care whether you're controversial or not. They they just don't want to vote yes. And voted no in committee on every one of them voted no on Judge Jackson.
well, yeah, that's to be expected, but they changed the court. When Obama had the opportunity to name a judge, they refused to even interview the judge. When Trump was in, before he left office, they made haste to get the last
Yeah.
judge Barrett, I think that's her name, on the Supreme Court. But the state of Georgia, uh, that's being controlled by this particular party, has done everything to try to stop, I call minority voters, from voting. There was 1 million new voters in Georgia, and most of them were black and Latinos, various folks. And they want to stop that because what they see is Democrats that won't vote for them.
Mhm.
And so they're doing everything to try to make sure that Democrats can't vote.
Right, right. We want to welcome Edith Newsom to Ask Elaine. We, of course, Pastor Lisa. We want to welcome Ricky Crawford, who's on with us. Good afternoon. And we thank you for tuning in. If you have other comments that you'd like to make, then please place them in the chat and we'll work as hard as we can to try and get those comments on for those folks who are listening on radio. We welcome all of you here. We've got a lot to talk about. Herbert, you have a question for Senator Lucas?
Yes, David. What? How many? white Democrats are in the legislature, in the Senate?
You got Nan O'Rock, Elena Parrott, Jan Jordan, who's running for the Attorney General's office. She'll be leaving.
With just a handful of them.
There is not that many, but the majority of the Democratic caucus is made up of women.
But he was asking how many whites are still with the Democratic Party. Would you say 10?
No,
10 of the,
no.
they're more than that?
No. You have Jan Jordan, Dan O'Rock, and Elena Parrott, and Sally Harrell. So there are 4 white women that are Democrats that are in the Senate caucus.
Okay, what about the House side?
Well, I can't tell you.
Democrats.
I can't tell you. I left there.
Yeah,
but they
a
have,
handful.
yeah, they have a bunch of white Democrats in that caucus.
It appears to me that white folks have left the Democratic Party en masse, no matter what section of the country, especially in Georgia, and they are joined the Republican Party.
Well, it seems that way because that's what they're catering to. When the Republican Party is catering try to make their districts whiter to be elected, and that's what reapportionment was all about. They drew the lines, and then of course the governor waited to the last minute to sign the bill. And when he waited to the last minute, when the folks filed the court suit and the judge ruled that you had to run from the districts that were done this past year. Now, I don't know whether or not they're going to have any standing going forward or whether or not they will sue.
The point I was trying to get at, it appears with most of the white people have joined the Republican Party in the Senate and in the House of Representatives.
That's what they did. Those who were former chairs in the Democratic caucus.
So it appears that because that has happened, that the Democrats right now cannot pass any bills hardly.
Well, that's true. That's
and
very
when the
true.
Republican pass bills that are anti-black or anti-democracy, where they just with the bills that Trump is passing, having passed all over the states, that Democrats cannot almost do nothing.
Well, we can do some things. In the Senate, you have to have the Democrats in the Senate to pass the constitutional amendment, period. It takes 38 votes to do that, and that's what you got to have. And they do not have a constitutional majority where they can just pass a constitutional amendment. Now they have the majority to have the votes to pass any bill.
Right.
But if it's anything to deal with the Constitution, then we have to be involved.
So what can Democrats, majority black and a few whites, do in legislation that's destructive to black people and to a lot of people? What can we do if we don't have enough people there?
Well, as I say, when I was coming up, Herbert, a long time ago, and when you were coming up a long time ago, whites got involved and did some things to support voting. You had a lot of who were Democrats, and they were a little bit older than us, but they supported Democrats and the ideas of the Democratic Party. The problem we have now is every 2 years we have what we call a biennial institute at the University of Georgia. About, I guess, 8 years ago, we were at the University of Georgia and they had a demographer there. And that demographer told the legislature then that the legislators then at the University of Georgia, that Georgia won't look like you or you.
That it was becoming blacker.
Well, it was becoming of Latinos
Black
and
and brown folks.
black and brown folks,
Mhm.
and so it's been a thing and an onslaught on to how to try to keep these folks from voting. Those of us of color.
You know, Herbert, I think the first thing we've got to do is to make sure we defeat as many of these right wingers, especially Trump. If Trump is on any ballot in 2024, we need to make sure that we turn out people in record numbers to defeat them. And then we've got to defeat the folks who are carrying this anti-black message, because now they're making it terrible for whites who are decent people. They go after them. Look in our own community. If there are some whites that join in with campaigns for voter registration, who are members of the Democratic Party, who are people who see people as people, who push voter registration, those folks have a hard time. In neighborhoods, if whites, you've got a mixed neighborhood, and you've mentioned this a bunch of times, that if blacks move into a neighborhood,
White folks
then
move out.
whites move out, and the pressure is put on them by their relatives that they don't want them living in a neighborhood. So it's an anti-black campaign that they carry among themselves. And I remember Rick Hutto, when Rick Hutto and I served together on the city council. Rick worked as hard for black folks in Ward 1 as he did white. He was just Rick was just a good person. Rick caught hell because he and I worked together so well, because he was white and I was black. And so Rick was told so many times, why are you working with Elaine? Now we're working to get a big old ditch replaced, a big old bridge replaced in the Shirley Hills area, where folks, if they didn't see it, they run over into it and possibly get killed. School buses couldn't come. Folks, because we were working together on that, had a problem with Rick. They gave him the devil, because that's what white folks do to each other.
This is what I was
Not all,
but
a lot of them.
this is what I was thinking. When you and I were at Macon College, we went to school together,
Do we have to keep?
But anyway,
Go ahead.
when we
Herb.
went to school together, I was at that point in my life, I thought, when these old white folks die out, the younger white folks would come up, and they, with the new thoughts, they would change things.
Some of
That
them are
hasn't
worse.
that hasn't
They're
happened.
worse.
And
They're
that's what I
scared of black and brown folks, and that the white race is disappearing. That is the fear, and that's what Trump pushes to those folks, that fear, rather than work with what you have. This world is majority brown. The world is. There are more black and brown people in the world than
But-
there are whites. There are no whites. There are no pure black people anymore. So as long as you have that fear in people, then you're going to have this onslaught where you got to push people back into slavery, which
know.
is the goal.
When David was first elected, the Speaker of the House was running things. He was a white guy, but he was a pretty in kind of decent person. And they worked and they did. They got a lot of things
A lot
accomplished.
of things done.
But
yeah.
but now, it's almost impossible. They're getting more and more whites in office that are Republicans, and see, it appears almost like the legislators really don't have, the Democratic legislators don't really have a lot of power. Not just in this state, but mainly in this state, but states all over. When
Go ahead.
when black folks get elected, I remember David Lucas and all the rest would go with the University of Georgia, and they would have them draw the maps up to be fair.
Mm.
When Republicans get elected, they get a consultant that comes in and show them how they could move the election and fix it in a way that they can win all the time. Seemed like
For
almost
10 years.
But it seemed like the Republicans are more nastier, more partisan to get
They're-
some things accomplished, and the Democrats try to go the fair way, let the University of Georgia and its professors and its people put together a fair district. How do we combat that in today's world when the legislators are Republicans and it seems like they have a meeting before the meetings and they all be on one page, and the Democrats are not all on one page like that, it appears.
Well, you have different folks, young folks that come in who have different ideas about how to accomplish things. And what happens, they go on their own way and they come back to you after they fail in doing the things they want to do. They come back to, well, what do we need to do? Well, first of all, you need to listen. That's number one. And a lot of them don't want to listen. They got their own agenda and think they can get it done the way they want to get it done. And it doesn't happen that way. One of the things that you have to realize in the legislature, outside of party, you make friends. You make friends. And to be effective, you have to have some friends that gonna give you the vote to help pass your bill. And a lot of those bills that happened last year and this year were basically to stop voting. They know who will vote for them. And they know that the majority of the times that black folks are gonna vote Democratic, and the other folks who are of color are going to vote Democratic too. And so that's the way it works. I mean, when the legislature, every time you go through reapportionment, they say that you can draw lines, but you can't discriminate. And see, when they got Section 2, when they overturned Section 2 with that Alabama case, that really put us in harm's way, because what Section 2 said is you cannot draw lines that would be less than what they were prior to. When they got rid of that, they draw them. You look at Henry County. Henry County is almost predominantly black. And what they did, the guy almost got defeated last term. What they did, they split the blacks up. They put part in the 17 and part in the 25. And so they split blacks up in Henry County to keep from electing a black. And it's sad, but you got to realize they've changed the Supreme Court too.
Yeah.
And you have to look at some of the decisions that the Supreme Court, even Clarence Thomas, voted with Trump. And now you find out,
well,
and now you find out that his wife was trying to deal with Meadows and talk about stay the course. We don't need to have Biden as president, and that's what's going on. So what they're saying is that when you talk about the insurrection, you need to recuse yourself from even voting. Now he doesn't have to,
because there are no rules that the Supreme Court has. They really don't have. They self-govern.
And what some members of Congress trying to do is try to put some rules in on the Supreme Court justices as to what they can do and what they cannot do. But Herbert, we go way back. Yeah, I remember coming back home, and the elected officials in the city of Macon were all white. They ran at large. And Ronnie Thompson was the mayor in 1975. And we were in a meeting, and I was saying, well, we're gonna draw some lines, and we're gonna run by district. And he called me David. Now he was the mayor, and I was the representative. So people got mad when I called him Ronnie. They got mad. I said, Ronnie, we're not gonna do that. And we had a big discussion, and a lot of folks didn't like it. And a lot of folks in the white community didn't like it.
How dare you, black man, call
Yeah.
that white man by his first name?
Well, you know,
There are a lot of people like that today
I-
that think that there's more respect due to certain folks than is due. Everybody is due the same amount of respect.
I just felt I was rash enough and young enough
Yeah, you would.
that I wasn't gonna take it. And what we did, we finally got the lines done to make city council run from district line, and that's how we got blacks on the city council. But it was a bill that I introduced the first day of the session when I got up there, and man, you ought to have heard some of the
No, they
discussion
didn't like you.
going on about the lines and everything, and the reason they saw that the city of Macon was going black, and so that's the reason they had the at-large seats
Right.
where you had to run all across the city to get elected. So on city council, you had the district seats, and then you had one of the seats if you lived in the district, but you ran citywide. And I think that was part of the thing. And when you had consolidation, you just reduced the number of black elected officials because the city council was majority black and the county commission was majority black. And so when you consolidated, you look at how they drew the lines.
That's the point I'm making. It seems like they thinking years in advance.
Oh,
and,
they are.
and
Their plan is long range.
And ours is short range. It seems like they play as dirty and nasty as they can to get what they done. It seems like we are the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, well, you know, that's what they do. You know, I hate to say it, but when Robert Brown gave up his seat to run for mayor, and I decided that I would resign my House seat and run for the Senate. The reason that I gonna give up my seat in the House and run for the Senate was I wanted to try to make sure that when they started talking that consolidation stuff, that they had to get right. And what they did in consolidation, they got a bunch of blacks that were saying, "Oh, that's what we need
in the legislature.
That's what we need."
Mhm.
And the thing that people talk about, even around the state, I believe that Macon is the only consolidated government that has term limits for the members of the commission.
Yeah.
And the reason they did that was one, that Elaine Lucas, after she lost to whatever the guy's name is,
Kent Balshin in
Balshin,
87.
and he didn't do squat on the commission, and he got off and left. Black folks, when black folks themselves were campaigning for white folks out these districts, black folks just shut their door. They didn't want to hear it. And so what they found out that they couldn't beat Commissioner Lucas. So in the consolidation, they drew her out in the swamps to the other side of town, the south side of town, going toward the airport. And when they did the consolidation, what they did was put term limits in. There are not that many folks who will put their name out there and have your whole life open to the public because you are running for office. There are certain folks that do it, that want to make changes within the system. And it's just like you. I mean, I protested. When I coming out of college, we protested. We had the Black Liberation Front. We downtown, down there picking in the stores because they didn't even have blacks working in the stores. And you know, those kind of things happen. I never will forget that we had an office up there on Cotton Avenue, where the Elks is, and it had a little school and stuff trying to teach black kids how to read. And those guys, they came up there. They came up there looking for all kind of stuff, liquor, all of that. They came up there, and I never will forget that day. Johnny Mars, and, John Wiggins, and Curtis Gassaway, and McCrary was one of the so-called teachers that were teaching the kids, the young kids and stuff. And it's amazing.
Who is they? The police came
The,
to
they
try and
raided.
find something illegal that
That's
was
right.
going on.
They
That's
raided my
always
Afro.
how I'm sure
They raided my Afro shop.
Yeah.
The
Any-
same way, searching
Right.
everything.
Right.
Yeah. So, things have changed and folks need to get used to it.
But we have
point,
got to vote.
but
We
my-
have got to vote.
My point, Elaine, is seem like we as Democrats are not tough enough, and the Republicans thinking way ahead and planning way ahead.
They are
And then
ruthless.
and
They take no prisoners.
and
They
bring
could care less about anything other than power and being able to lock it in.
and they bring in through that whole process some black people that'll go along with them.
That's right. Give
It's
them the consolidation, give them the this and that support stuff that they want, and then they, feather their nest. So,
Well,
yeah.
you got to realize one thing: they sold consolidation. Your taxes won't go up. That will be right after consolidation came in. They couldn't pay the bills. The commissioners didn't know that the city was late paying their bills. That's when you find out that $40 million gap. When you talk about trying to equalize the taxes in the city and the county, and it should have been. If you were gonna do it, you should have did it on a scale. You shouldn't just shouldn't have done it all at one time and left a $40 million hole in your budget.
Well, consolidation has been shown to have been a terrible thing for Black folks in this community and all people of color, because not only did we lose political power, but we lost the power of the purse. And we lost the power over our neighborhoods. And unless we start voting and look and see what's going on, we're going to continue to lose, because there's a national scheme to take away our voting rights. There's a state scheme that's already infringed on our right, and local folks. There are a lot of local folks who voted for Trump who believe that Black folks shouldn't have the right to vote. And they would have no problem with the GBI coming in here investigating folks. But we have got to vote. We need to, this time around, I used to vote. I voted absentee. I'm not voting absentee. I'm going to vote in person. And I encourage everybody else, those 3 weeks of early voting.
Well, you got a lot of elderly folks that need to vote.
Well, we need to provide transportation. And then for those folks who want to vote absentee, there is a process, and we will assist them. And every church, every minister, anybody who says that you're a leader and you're concerned, you need to be helping to set up a system to assist people. But most of you who sit around and talk and criticize need to get up off of your, what was it somebody used to say, rusty dusty, that's older, and go and vote those 3 weeks of early voting, or on election day. Go and vote in person, and take your own water and your own snacks in your pocket if you think you're going to be there a while. We cannot let people stop us from voting.
Maynard Jackson was the first Black mayor of Atlanta.
Right.
Followed by Andy Young.
Yes.
And every mayor since.
Absolutely.
Why is that not happening in Macon? We got Jack. Jack happened, and that was the end of that.
That was it. Yeah.
And I think
there was a concerted effort to make sure, with consolidation and a number of other things, that concerted effort was that there would not be another Black mayor.
And so far, they've succeeded. I think one of the things I think we must do, as far as that is concerned, we have to get better candidates running.
Well, it's real hard because you get attacked when you're a Black elected official. If you are not squeaky clean, I mean, you end up under the jail. You end up with this mighty force against you. Look at all of the ridiculous things that have been brought up and complaints filed on me and anybody who's a black elected official.
Now,
And it doesn't have to be true. They throw it out there anyway.
They in other cities, a lot of cities are like Atlanta. All the problems we have
Augusta
here,
now they've got a black mayor.
right?
Yeah.
But seem like we are not in that category. We are. I don't even think we're close to electing one now, unless somebody like Elaine Huckabee Lucas run.
Well, I tell you what, the kinds of things that the present administration is doing are things that needed to be done in the black community for a long, long time. And those things are very popular. So it's hard to be against somebody who's doing what needed to have been done 15 years back under another administration.
What I'm
It's
basically
hard.
saying, we have to plan not for take that long range
Right.
view. That's
right.
what appears that the Republicans are doing. They take a long range look at things, and they have been very, very effective in doing that.
Right.
When they pass something in one state that's anti-black or anti-voting, the other states pick it up and they push it on.
Right.
And then when it gets here, it comes in the legislatures here, and then David and the other legislators up there
are overwhelmed.
They
can't outvote them.
They can't outvote them.
Well, that's true. I was trying to recall somewhere, it might have been Illinois or something, that the judge ruled the reapportionment plan was out of order.
It was in Florida.
In Florida.
It was Florida, the judge, but it's scheduled to be probably overturned because they're gonna appeal it. Where you've got Clarence Thomas, which is another topic, because we could talk about this all day. That's why I love these two gentlemen, because they tell it like it is, and you get the history, you get no nonsense information, answers. This is what Ask Elaine is all about, and we want to welcome all of you who have tuned in today to Ask Elaine, all of those who are on AM, FM, those that are on Facebook Live. We have a caller. Let's take this call. Caller, welcome to Ask Elaine.
Yes, I would like to say this is Lisa Galton on behalf of the Macon Water Authority, and we are honored to be hosting a official building dedication in honor of Mr. Herbert Denard Sr. on Monday, April the 11th.
April 11th.
Yes, ma'am, at 10 a.m. We will officially christen our building as the Herbert Denard Sr. Support Services Building.
Oh, okay. Seems like I heard a little bit something about that, and I plan to be there. Herbert has been a warrior on this battle for a long, long time.
He tried to interview the YMCA. He got locked up.
He almost got locked up when we were in Pleasant Hill trying to register folks to vote. Almost got locked up. He just told me his business. They came down to look at that and stuff. So,
Lisa is very, very special person.
Yeah.
On Florida. He's the first black man.
And so we are very honored. We are very honored. You will see his name at the corner of the building of Oglethorpe and MLK, as well as the building. And so we are very excited to be honoring Mr. Denard.
Oh, okay.
Well, brother, I want to say congratulations to you. At least you did something.
Yeah. They don't name stuff after you if you haven't done anything. Lisa, tell us again the engineer. Lisa, tell us again the date. Okay. The date and the event.
The Macon Water Authority will be honoring Mr. Denard on Monday, April the 11th, 2022, which is this upcoming Monday at 10 a.m. at our
Yes.
support service building, which is located at 918 MLK Boulevard.
Okay, and so forever and ever, that building will be named the Herbert L. Denard Senior. What's the rest
Support
of
Services
support
Center.
service center? That is great. That is great. Thank you so much for calling in. And in the future, we're going to be talking about some water board issues. We're going to have some of the candidates who are running for some of the seats on the water board. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Lucas and Senator Lucas, and also the honored Mr. Herbert Denard.
All right.
Let me say this. The reason I ran for the Water Authority, David Lucas and Billy Randall, when they was elected, they carved out the districts. And they did, not only did they do city council, which David Lucas just talked about, the senator, he also did the county commissioner.
And the water board.
And the water board. And that gave me the opportunity to run for that seat.
Right.
But I'm not sure how much, back to the subject, how much we can do or you can do now. Back then, I remember coming to your office once in the Capitol. You had a huge office.
And Democrats were in charge then.
Yeah. You were on the first floor then. Weren't you on the first floor?
I was on the second
near
floor.
the Secretary of State's office.
The Secretary of State and the governor's office.
Oh, okay.
But now you have a smaller, much smaller office.
Yeah. I mean, which is and my office is in the Capitol. I moved out of the LOB and moved into the Capitol.
Okay.
My office will be a little bit bigger since Senator Jackson is running and he's in my suite, so I'll be moving to that suite.
Okay. We have a caller. Caller, welcome to Ask Elaine. Hello, caller.
If we can move on.
Did we have a caller? Oh, all right. Well, caller, try us again. Our number is 478-250-1444. We welcome your comments. We got to get to talk about Clarence and Jenny, and we got to talk about Chris and Will and all of that.
One of the things I want to say, we accomplished a lot on the water authority. One of the reasons we accomplished so much is we had Albert Billings, commissioner. He was on the board.
Wasn't scared and wasn't called. Go ahead.
And we had B.W. Chambers.
Wasn't scared, wasn't called.
Right. And then we had
the engineer.
We worked together. We would sit down and go over things, and we were able to accomplish a lot. I don't know what is going on now. It seems like things are changing. Either we don't have the caliber of people like Albert and people coming in together, or every person is going for themselves.
Herbert, you got a lot. I'll let him go ahead.
Well, you had Albert and Chambers, but you got to realize that they were in Macon when blacks were not even elected. I think the only black you had was appointed to the Board of Education.
Right. That's right.
I think that was D.T. Walton. And I wish they were here now because they told me it'll never happen in my lifetime that we would get the interchange at 16 to 75. That's $619 million. It took me 30 years to get it in place. And I dealt with the DOT commission at that time to get all of the paperwork done because on 16 and 75, you had to deal with the snails. You had to do the environmental stuff. And all of that.
But the sad thing, and I gotta jump in here, the sad thing was when we talked about the fact that Senator Lucas had gotten the $600+ million for that interchange, which is gonna just create all kinds of good things for Macon-Bibb County. And we talked about naming that in his honor so that people will forever know who got that major kind of thing for Macon-Bibb County. Folks lost their mind. Mallory Jones, Valerie Wynn, and those of some other folks. Oh, they crowded it down there with folks in camouflage uniforms and the military veteran stuff, and they did not want that interchange named for a black man. We found out though that the original portion had already been named, and that Senator Lucas couldn't have his name on it unless he was deceased or had been out of the legislature for 2 years. But since it was already named, what was there, the two lanes, then we were not able to do it. But it was that hatred, it was that fear that Black folks would be recognized. And that's what we're dealing with now. And that is what former President Trump is so good at, stirring up hatred and fear that white folks have of people who don't look like them. They are fearful that they're disappearing, that whites are disappearing, and that everybody is beige. And if you look in this world, people are beige now.
We're on a gospel show, but what that says is that a lot of them are not doing anything in the bedroom now.
Oh, now. But you, anyway, I don't know about the senator over here. Did we bleep that?
But we have, it appears that, again, I say, Republicans think long range,
long term.
And then when they are elected, they have things on their agenda. When David was elected, he had some things on his agenda to carve out the district. He was a leader in that. When I was elected and Albert was elected, we had some things. There wasn't any Black managers at the entire water authority at that time.
And now there are because of you. Let's take this call. Caller, welcome to
Madam Commissioner.
Yes.
Pastor Lisa here.
Lisa, how are you? Congratulations.
I am blessed.
Wonderful drum major program.
And we salute the three of you, a set of our first original drum majors.
Okay, well, we're honored.
And we want to call in and just say we salute our senator for 48 years of service.
Well, not yet. Just finished 40.
Well, we salute you for all of those years of service, and know you just finished a great session, and we just dare not let this opportunity go by after all that we've seen go on in the last couple of years, and God got you still here serving us with great strength and such a great impact on our community and so many people's lives. We just wanted to call and salute you and thank you so much for your continued service, and let you know that our prayers for you to continue to do it is still there.
Okay, well, we salute you as well.
And also want to call in and congratulate Mr. Herbert Denard. I call him Mr. Informer. On the building being named in his honor.
Yeah.
And we just want to
we gotta be there. We gotta be there for that. And we encourage everybody to turn out for that. We want to thank you. We have Maria Bryant with the NAACP who is here. And we want to congratulate and salute her and Gwyneth Westbrook of the NAACP who joined with the ML King Commission in preparing, and they prepared the food. They did full meals for the sanitation workers. All of you should know, if you don't, that Monday marked the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King. And the NAACP has joined with the Martin Luther King board for a number of years in saluting sanitation workers, because Dr. King was in Memphis when he was murdered. He was there advocating for garbage workers. And so our garbage workers work. They work hard. You let your garbage not be picked up and you got a real mess on your hands. I think that's been about the biggest um, uprising from citizens, and that's been the garbage. So
That's
we
true.
want to salute the two of those ladies, Gwinnett Westbrook and Maria Bryant, and the others with the NAACP and the MLK
Right.
board for
Right.
saluting our God. We're celebrating Dr. King 365, not just
365.
Royal
MLK
Wedding
365.
365. Herbert had a comment.
I want to mention to Senator Lucas, uh, when you going to retire? Calvin Smiley, you and him went on at the same time, and now he's gone.
Well, Calvin go take a job as United States ambassador. He's gonna get paid for being a public servant. That is what he's gonna do. What I've said to myself is that I like what I'm doing because it's still a fight to try to make sure and get justice and equality for folks of color. That's still a fight. You cannot forget that. You can't get in office and think that you are so much that the folks that sent you there to do the work for them, you forget about them, and that's it. And so somebody has to do it. You know, what I say is, I don't have to sit down and eat dinner with y'all. I can buy my own dinner. And my thing is that if you're doing wrong, I'm gonna tell you. You might not like it, but I'm still gonna tell you. But part of our problem is our young folks don't know what our history is. You know, you got the gangs and all that. If Dr. King could see that now, he'd be turned over in his grave. We got young black folks killing black folks.
Yeah.
And it's got to stop.
We've got to stop that.
It's got to stop. I've had talked to the DA. I'm going to talk to the sheriff. If you want to take a life, then you got to pay the price.
We want to express our gratitude that Sheriff David Davis came to a commission meeting last night. He is dealing with leukemia. He looked really good. He's a fighter. And so we were so happy to see him. And tell us about Soul Jam, because there's a wannabe Soul Jam out there. It's called some kind of cultural, and I'm not against anybody wanting to provide entertainment and stuff, but it's just kind of funny that they would come in right before Soul Jam. Soul Jam is celebrating its 22nd year. This is Soul Jam 2022, so it's 22nd year of Soul Jam. Tell us about that very quick.
Well, this year
we've got about 5 minutes.
It's May the 29th. Soul Jam is always the Sunday before Memorial
Not
Day.
April, May 29th.
And we have this year Tucker, who everybody's been on me about.
Wonderful artist.
We've got Pokey Bear.
What's that song he does?
Well, he sang the song I Left Home to Be With My Side Piece.
Oh well, I don't know about that. Go ahead.
And then we have Bobby Rush.
Always.
And he has young ladies, and Bobby Rush will tell you, just look at it. And then we have
coming in
we have Nellie Travis, and then we had Lakeside, and they ended up taking another date on the same date in Atlanta. And so we replaced Lakeside with the Soul Jam band, which yours truly will be on stage. And Just Friends, Mike Hagenbrook. And then we have a band out of Athens, Georgia called John Dunn and the Jasmine.
So we're saying this because we want you to mark your calendar for May 29th, not April. This is the real original Soul Jam that's May the 29th at Henderson Stadium. There are some copycat shows, but there's no other show than the original Soul Jam, which is on May 29th.
And let me say this. You can get your early bird tickets. The early bird tickets are $35. You can go to tickets.mercer.edu, or you can go to the Grand Opera House when they open and tell them you want to purchase Soul Jam tickets. Now the early bird tickets stop April the 19th, and the regular tickets will be $45, and at the gate they will be $50.
Mhm, mhm.
And so,
But there's no show like Soul Jam. There's no folks who sponsor, like the sponsors who come and present Soul Jam. Your senator has been presenting it for over 20 years for this community. So we don't want the others to come in and ruin what we've had for all of these years. So join us, Henderson Stadium, May 29th. We'll have a lot of things to give away. There'll be concessions. There'll be just all kinds of things. And then the wonderful music. And then you bring your own food and your own libations and just enjoy an evening, a full day, May 29th.
and
Our
be safe.
time, huh?
And safe.
And safe. Plenty of security. Plenty